The horizon of the 13th century world is about to be erased. For nearly 1,000 years, the Roman legion was the gold standard of military engineering, a rigid, heavy, and seemingly invincible machine of stone and iron. But to the riders gathering in the shadow of the Altai Mountains, the Roman model is an obsolete relic. These men are not a horde. They are a decimal-based, industrialized system of mobile violence. They do not fight for glory. They fight for the total integration of the planet. A young scout named Batu sits on a pony that looks small, shaggy, and unimpressive. But Batu knows a truth that would terrify a Roman centurion. He is sitting on a high-output biological battery. Behind him is a system that has turned nomadic life into a lethal assembly line. What happens in the next hour will prove why the Mongol Empire became an unstoppable force that could out-engineer, outpace, and outgun the greatest infantry machine in history. This victory is built on 3 pillars: the composite engine, the stable platform, and the decimal command. Batu reaches for his primary tool, the Mongol composite bow. To a Roman, a bow is a secondary support weapon made of a single piece of wood. To Batu, this is a high-tension machine of laminated horn, wood, and sinew. This is the kinetic genius of the steppe. By gluing these materials together under intense pressure, the Mongols created a weapon that stores more energy per square inch than any other handheld weapon until the invention of modern firearms. The horn on the interface resists compression, while the sinew on the back provides incredible elastic tension. When Batu pulls the string, he is engaging a mechanical spring that can launch a heavy arrow with enough kinetic energy to pierce iron plate at 100 yards. While a Roman shield, the scutum, could stop a standard arrow, it was never designed to withstand the focused, steel-tipped kinetic impact of the Mongol bodkin. These heads are the output of the Mongol Bureau of Metallurgy. They aren't just iron, they are case-hardened steel. The core is soft to absorb impact, but the skin is carbon-rich and brittle, allowing it to shatter the links of chainmail and the wood of a shield like glass. The command is given not by a shout, but by the high-pitched whistle of a singing arrow. Batu spurs his horse into a gallop. He does not ride head-on, he moves in the Parthian circle. This is the first stage, suppression through mobility. Batu's unit sweeps toward the enemy in a wide arc. As they reach the kill zone, they pivot. At the exact moment the horse is at a full gallop, at the microsecond when all 4 hooves are off the ground, Batu releases his arrow. This is the stable platform secret. By firing during the float phase of the horse's gait, Batu eliminates the vibration of the animal. His aim is as steady as if he were standing on stone. A hail of arrows, fired with a rate of fire that rivals modern semi-automatic weapons, rains down. A Roman legion relies on static defense, locking shields and holding the line, but against the Mongol machine, a static line is just a stationary target. The legion can do nothing but watch as their ranks are systematically thinned by a force they can never catch. But the bow is useless without the fuel. Batu does not have 1 horse, he has 5. This is the redundant power supply. While a Roman soldier is a pedestrian tied to a slow-moving supply train, Batu rotates his batteries. He leaps from one saddle to another at a full gallop. Because the army carries its own remounts, the Mongol machine can move 80 miles a day, every day for weeks. This is strategic overmatch. They appear behind enemy lines days before scouts have even reported their departure. Batu feels the rhythm of the fresh horse. He checks his armor. Beneath his leather, he wears a heavy silk undershirt. This is ballistic engineering. Silk is one of the few materials that does not break when hit by an arrowhead. Instead, the silk wraps around the point as it enters the skin, allowing camp medics to pull the arrow out cleanly. This is the component preservation system. It keeps the veteran parts of the machine in the fight, while a wounded Roman soldier often faces a slow death from infection. Suddenly, the enemy, goaded into a rage by the constant harassment, breaks their formation and charges. This is exactly what the decimal command predicted. Batu's unit performs the feigned retreat. To the enemy, it looks like a panic. To Batu, it is a calculated algorithm. Every man knows his coordinate. They lead the enemy into a narrow valley where the rest of the Tumen, 10,000 riders, is waiting in a massive U-shape. This coordination is the result of the Nerjo, the great winter hunt where thousands of riders spend months practicing encirclements on wild animals. For Batu, the enemy soldiers are just another herd of deer to be harvested. The U-shape closes. The kinetic storm becomes a static encirclement. Batu reaches for his heavy, armor-piercing arrows. The time for harassment is over. The time for liquidation has begun. The field is won, but for the Mongol machine, the war is decided at the gates. While a Roman legion might spend years in a stalemate against a fortified city, relying on slow-moving circumvallation and starvation, the Mongol High Command views a city wall as an engineering problem in thermal and kinetic energy. This is the second stage of the system, the integration of the sedentary mind. As Batu's unit secures the perimeter, the Ordu, the mobile army city, arrives. Behind the riders comes the Bureau of Technical Acquisition. The Mongols realized that while they mastered the horse, the empires they conquered had mastered the earth. They didn't just loot cities, they indexed them. They identified every architect, blacksmith, and alchemist. If you could build a wall, the Mongols forced you to learn how to break one. This is why Batu's siege line looks less like a camp and more like an industrial construction site. Batu watches as a forest is cleared in days. Under the direction of captured Chinese and Persian engineers, the wood is transformed into the traction trebuchet. Unlike the European or Roman counterweight trebuchets, massive slow machines that took minutes to reset, the traction trebuchet is a high-volume artillery system. It uses a crew of up to 100 men pulling ropes in a synchronized snap to launch projectiles. It is a human-powered engine. Because it lacks a heavy lead weight, it can be reloaded in seconds. The machine begins the saturation barrage. Batu's unit isn't just watching, they are ensuring the supply chain of gravity remains unbroken. Thousands of smooth river stones are hauled to the front. The trebuchets fire in shifts, 24 hours a day. This is acoustic and psychological warfare. The constant thud-thud-thud against the stone walls denies the defenders sleep, creates a perpetual state of vibration in the masonry, and slowly turns the city's internal structures into rubble. In terms of kinetic genius, the Mongols are delivering more force per hour than any army in antiquity. But stones are only the beginning. The Mongol machine utilizes chemical overmatch. From the alchemists of the Jin dynasty, they took the Thunder Crash Bomb, iron-shod ceramic pots filled with a primitive but potent gunpowder. When launched over the walls, these don't just kill, they explode with a sound that terrifies horses and breaks the resolve of men who have never heard a mechanical detonation. They also employ biological contagion. Batu sees the carcasses of horses that have died of glanders or plague being loaded into the slings. By catapulting rotting meat into the city's water sources, the Mongols trigger a biological shutdown. They turn the city's density, its greatest defense, into its primary killer. They aren't just fighting the soldiers on the walls, they are attacking the city's operating system. Throughout this process, the machine maintains a cold administrative heart. This is the doctrine of the tents. Batu sees the white tent pitched on the command ridge. This is a binary choice. If the city surrenders now, they are treated as a resource to be harvested, taxed, but left alive. If the red tent is raised, the soldiers die, but the civilians are spared. But if the black tent is raised, the machine enters total liquidation. Batu stands guard as the black tent rises. This is not about anger, it is about market signaling. By erasing a city, literally leveling it until a horse can gallop over the site without tripping, the Mongols ensure that the next 10 cities surrender without a shot. This economy of violence saves the machine time and fuel. While a Roman general might seek a glorious triumph, the Mongol commander seeks a frictionless expansion. The city gates are finally breached. Batu doesn't enter to find gold, he enters to find the talent. The engineers, the weavers, and the doctors are pulled aside and branded with the seal of the Khan. They are the high-value components, They are loaded into wagons and sent back to the Mongolian heartland, where they will build the next generation of the machine. As the city burns, Batu checks his paisa, the golden tablet that proves he is an agent of the Central Command. The siege is over, but the expansion of the network has just begun. He needs a fresh horse. He needs the yam. Victory on the battlefield and at the city gates is only a temporary surge of power. To maintain a continental empire, the machine requires a central nervous system, a way to move information faster than the friction of distance. This is the third stage of the Mongol system, the global data relay. Batu spurs his horse away from the smoldering ruins. He is no longer acting as a combatant. He is now a cell in the yam system. While the Romans built stone roads for marching legions, the Mongols built a high-bandwidth postal network for pure information. Batu reaches into his leather pouch and feels the cold weight of his paisa. This golden tablet is more than just an ID, it is a priority access key. As he approaches a small fortified outpost on the horizon, he blows his bone whistle. The sound carries the preload command. By the time Batu skids to a halt at the yam station, the attendants have already performed the mechanical reset. A fresh horse, saddled and hydrated, is standing ready. Batu does not dismount to eat or rest. He leaps from one saddle to another in a single fluid motion. This is the human relay engine. By placing these stations every 20 miles, the exact distance a horse can maintain a full gallop without collapsing, the Mongols achieved an information speed of 200 miles per day. In the 13th century, this was the equivalent of the Internet. A message from the front lines in Hungary could reach the Great Khan in Mongolia in less than 2 weeks. This information overmatch allowed the Central Command to react to a rebellion, a famine, or a changing weather pattern before the enemy even realized the Mongols were aware of the situation. Batu is the physical fiber optic cable of a global organism. How does Batu sustain himself during these multi-day sprints? This leads to the science of the mobile ration. Every Mongol rider carries borts, beef or horse meat that has been wind-dried and pulverized into a concentrated powder. By adding a spoonful to a leather canteen, Batu creates a high-protein soup while at a gallop. This is nutritional efficiency. It eliminates the need for slow-moving supply wagons, allowing the messenger to move through barren deserts as a self-sustaining data packet. The YAM system didn't just carry military orders, it carried the standardized trade protocol. Behind the messengers come the merchants. Because Batu's unit has cleared the bandits and established safe houses, the Silk Road has been transformed from a dangerous gamble into a continental conveyor belt. The Mongols introduced the Pax Mongolica, a forced stability that allowed the first true global exchange. They didn't just move goods, they moved operating systems. They standardized weights and measures. They issued the world's first widespread paper currency, the chow, backed by silk and precious metals. This was the financialization of the steppe. It allowed a merchant to sell silk in the east and redeem profits in the west using a single piece of paper, bypassing the risk of carrying heavy gold, a concept the Romans, tied to their physical denarii, never fully scaled. Batu sees the caravans passing him. They carry modular intellectual property. Because the machine removed the barriers of the old world, a Chinese irrigation technique can be exported to Persia, and a Persian medicinal formula can be sent to Korea. The Mongols are the global systems administrators. As Batu approaches the next station, he sees the Darugachi, the census takers. These are the data collectors of the empire. They track every sheep, every bale of silk, and every productive artisan. This information is fed back through the YAM to the central server, the Great Khan. This allows the machine to calculate exactly how much taxation can be extracted without causing a system crash. The machine has conquered the field, breached the walls, and linked the continents. But a machine without a unified OS is just a collection of parts. To ensure longevity, the Mongols implemented the Universal Code. Batu enters a provincial heart and sees something that would have been impossible under the Roman or Byzantine models: a Buddhist monk, a Nestorian Christian priest and a Muslim scholar sitting at the same table. This is the policy of radical tolerance. It wasn't born from modern human rights, but from practical optimization. The Mongol machine realized that religious friction was a bottleneck to productivity. By granting total religious freedom, they eliminated a primary cause of rebellion, allowing populations to focus entirely on output. At the center of this is the Yasa, the secret source code of the empire. This was a standardized legal framework designed to eliminate the social friction that destroys nomadic confederations. The Yasa codified the rules of the hunt and the division of spoils, but it went deeper into resource sustainability, including strict laws against polluting water sources. Because the punishment was absolute, it created a level of public safety that shocked travelers. The machine didn't need a massive police force, it relied on the systemic certainty that the law would be enforced. This legal framework enabled the global talent exchange. Batu watches Chinese cartographers being escorted toward the western frontier as assigned assets. He sees the results in his own equipment: a saddle designed by Chinese carpenters, leather cured with Persian chemical techniques, and iron stirrups refined on the steppe. The Mongol army never fell behind because they didn't just invent, they aggregated. They were the world's first military-industrial venture capital firm. But even the most perfect machine has limits. Batu looks at his horses grazing on the edge of the European forests. The Mongol engine was a steppe machine optimized for wide-open vectors. As it pushes into the humid, dense woods of Central Europe, it experiences environmental friction. The high-tension glue of the composite bow softens in the humidity. The biological battery of the horse finds less grazing land. The Mongols didn't fail because they were outfought. They paused because they reached the edge of the map for their specific technology. But the legacy was permanent. The gunpowder Batu's engineers launched would evolve into European muskets. The printing techniques moved along the Yam would spark the Renaissance. The decimal system of organization would become the global standard for modern militaries. Batu stands on the shores of the Great Sea in the west. He is a soldier, a messenger, and a pioneer of the modern age. The Mongol Empire was not a horde of barbarians. It was a high-tech, data-driven, logistically superior continental processor. It took the chaos of the medieval world and ran it through a filter of nomadic logic, leaving behind a planet that was smaller, faster, and more connected than ever before. Batu turns his horse back toward the east. The steel hurricane has passed, but the world it created is only just beginning.